Welcome. I'd like to call to order the March 17th, 2025 Merrimack School Board meeting. Will everyone stand with me to say the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, and I want to wish everyone a happy St. Patrick's Day. Now is the time of our meeting where we open up the microphone to public comment. Everyone who comes and would like to speak must state their name and address unless they are a student. So I welcome anyone in the public to come to the microphone towards the back for public comment. Seeing none, we will move on to recognitions.
We do not have any recognitions this evening.
Let's go to the superintendent update.
Well, we have lots of wonderful things happening with students and staff in the school district. As you know, you combine great students with terrific faculty, and they make us very proud all the time. Thorntons Ferry, their community has raised $13,000 for the American Heart Association's Kids Heart Challenge, through that Heart Challenge, and they have donated that. And since 2012, 2013, the Thorntons Ferry community has raised $195,000. So certainly to be congratulated. From Nick Pierce, one of our high school social studies teachers, the mock trial, United Nations Club participated in a conference at Bedford High School recently. Two members, Matthew Brown and Bridget Clark, were co-chairs of specific committees in the mock United Nations, or the simulated or model United Nations, if you'd like to call it that. And two students also, in addition, distinguished themselves. Alexa Rigoli was designated as the best delegate at the Model UN at Bedford High School, and Madeline Gelinas won the best position paper. So once again, the students distinguishing themselves, distinguishing the school district. From Ron Beck, you know we have a wonderful, wonderful music program. And from Ron, this past Saturday, the high school jazz band performed at the Clark Terry Jazz Festival at UNH. The band performed extremely well, and three members were awarded Outstanding Musicianship Awards. Abbott Davis on trombone, Colin Plum on piano, and Hikari McDowell on alto sax. The jazz band also received two awards, Outstanding Saxophone Section and an honorable mention, Outstanding Musicianship. And finally, Hikari, I'm going to have to meet you, Hikari, because he sounds like an incredible music talent. Sax player Hikari McDowell received the MVP award for Class A bands, and this is a major achievement considering the caliber of the bands and the festival. So just outstanding. Ken?
Yeah, so I was there, and I know Hikari really well, and he used to be one of my private saxophone students. And just to give people the scope of what that means, the Clark Terry Jazz Festival features jazz ensembles from all over New England and sometimes as far away as New York. And so they're going up against schools from Massachusetts, from Maine, from Connecticut. It's probably the largest high school and middle school jazz festival in our region. And the first time I brought my school there, I was told by New Hampshire, another colleague of mine, don't expect to get any awards because Massachusetts just wins all the awards. So for Merrimack to take those honors is a huge deal. So.
Yep. And between you and Hikari, two future members of the group Tower of Power, as we always say.
He's better than me at this point. So.
Upcoming music events. The Celebration of Song. Grade 3 through 12 district concert is tomorrow night at 6:30 at the high school. The New Hampshire Music Educators Association Large Group Festival is on Saturday, March 22nd at Bow High School. The Cavalcade of Bands, the 5 through 12 District Band Concert, will be on Wednesday, March 26th at 6:30 at the high school. And the New Hampshire Music Educators Association All-State Band and Orchestra will perform on Saturday, April 5th at the Capitol Center for the Arts and Concord High School. From Matthew Gage with the Robotics Club, recently competed in the Pine Tree District competition that was in Lewiston, Maine. The group put together a new robot that wasn't as field tested as they would have liked, but they did very, very well. They won an award for sustainability, and Laura Bevel won an award. She said, more significantly, Laura Bevel became a Dean's List semifinalist. The Dean's List is the only individual award at FIRST. The FIRST is for inspiration and recognition of science and technology. And teams can nominate 2 students, sophomore and junior, that demonstrate leadership and commitment to FIRST and robotics and science and technology. And congratulations to Laura. Heading back to the high school, the newly formed Merrimack Hollis Brookline Dairyfield Warhawks hockey team. As you know, we had a combined hockey team because several districts did not have enough players to run an individual team. They made it to the Division II state championship. Had a tough game. It was 3-2. They came close to tying it at 3-3 many times. Then they pulled the goalie and unfortunately lost 4-2. But a great effort by them. James Brew and Caleb May both made the state all-state team. Jackson Woods, James Brew, and Blake Beaulieu all have been selected to participate in New Hampshire senior game this Sunday. And so we congratulate them. Great job. And, of course, what would recognitions be without Sarah Campbell and the Granite State Challenge team? This is, I think it's the 42nd or 43rd year of the Granite State Challenge, if I recall correctly. The team has won 3 in a row, has won a total of 4 competitions, looking to win its 5th competition. Sarah Campbell and Liz Dumais have done outstanding and continue to do an outstanding job with the team. They most recently defeated Winnisquam High School 290-160, and that was on PBS, New Hampshire Public Television, and you can see reruns of that also. The team captain is 12th grader Aaron Murray, along with 12th graders Liam McIsaac and Maeve LaRock, 11th grader Avis Clever. The team alternates with 12th grade Hikari McDowell and 11th graders Bridget Clark and Lauren Murphy. They always make us proud. That's why we keep coming back day after day, week after week, because of the wonderful things that students do, the staff do, that make us so proud every day of the year.
Comments or questions from the board? All right, Assistant Superintendent update.
Good evening, everyone. And like Laura, I just want to wish everyone a happy St. Patrick's Day. It's a big day for those of us that are Irish. And I also will be giving a more comprehensive update. We had a pretty big PD day last week. I could put a memo at your seats and to talk a little bit about all of the offerings. I just want to take a minute to also congratulate Dr. Campbell, who recently won a full scholarship to attend MIT's Science and Engineering program this summer. Dr. Campbell was selected among a lot of highly talented and qualified applicants. And so I was conversing with her and going back and forth, and she's just one of those teachers just really excited to continue to learn and grow and talk about what she can bring back to her students. So pretty exciting that Dr. Campbell will be at MIT this summer.
Comments or questions from the board? We do want to congratulate Dr. Campbell on an awesome opportunity, and she's earned it.
May I just make a comment? The Rotary does a wonderful end-of-year academic awards banquet, and I oftentimes talk with the students about favorite teachers. She is always one of the teachers that's named as a favorite teacher of the students. Speaks volumes.
Thank you. We will move to our Assistant Superintendent for Business update.
Thank you. Going last, it's apparent to me that I have to come up with some better snazzy material.
Let's talk about HVAC system.
Let's talk about HVAC system. Let's talk about the roof at Mastercola Elementary School in J Muse and the gym that's the floor is going to get damaged if it doesn't get voted in. But anyway, we're all set for those things. We're waiting for the vote. I'm glad the deliberative session is over. I appreciate everybody who showed up, everybody who spoke. I thought it was a wonderful experience. And we're just waiting to see how things are going to turn out. And we are ready to go if it is yes. And we have alternative plans if it is no. So we're just hoping that, especially the roof needs to pass because, as I said in the deliberative session, that no means no. So if something happens to that roof and the warrant article fails, we cannot take money from the operating budget to repair it. We have to leave it be. And that was also kind of put forward by the attorney, was RSA 189, whatever. I figured I'd use the attorney to get a couple $100, worth of work out of her while she was sitting there. So that's something that's very important. So we thank you very much for that, and thank you, the board, for your support over the last year or so getting this budget done. It feels like it's been like 6 months of budget. It's been an ordeal getting it done.
Lori.
I was just going to ask a question. So, if it failed, no means no, but there's no special school board meeting, nothing that we could do?
We would have to go to legal and try and work something out with the state. It was a law passed specifically to take a specific purpose as stated in the warrant article and prohibit you, if the vote is no, from using other monies to do the same thing. So that's what it means.
So I guess that would be a good state legislator.
It would be, I
problem,
think,
because then
wouldn't
we could
it?
say
Just
no
happen to
means
have
no
some over here.
unless there was a catastrophe. Because if your
Well,
roof fell in and you can't do anything, I
I'm
don't
sure
think that was the intent of the law.
intent of the law was, let's say we had like a ball field on the warrant, right? And it failed, and we took money from the general fund operating budget, and we built a ball field anyway. But this is a little bit different. If it's a roof and it's going to be leaking and it's going to be an emergency and it's going to be something that's going to be failing, affect our infrastructure and everything like that, you have to think there has to be a little bit of wiggle room around here, and maybe we could, ask some of our friends to help us out with that. Yeah.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Well, seeing that our student representative, Finn Haddad, is excused tonight, I'm kind of combining my school board update with the deliberative session review. So we will move on to the old business of the deliberative session. We had a large crowd again this year, which was wonderful to see. Lots of people coming and participating. There were a lot of people there who had never been to a deliberative session before, my son being one of those people. And it was great to see people coming out and participating in democracy. And I appreciate one of the, towards the end, speakers who said, democracy is messy. The quote ended up in the Union Leader article about our deliberative session. But even though it's messy, it means we came together as a unified town to discuss it. And I was so glad to see so many people there. All the warrant articles did move as written to the ballot. And so the operating budget, there had been an amendment to reduce it that failed. So the operating budget as written will move on to the ballot along with the roof, the capital fund for correcting our SAU buildings, and 2 petitioned warrant articles will be moving to the ballot as well. So April 8th, polls are open 7 to 7. The town website gives where your polling place is. So if you're new to Merrimack and you're not sure where to vote, there are 3 polling sites at J Muse, at St. John Newman Church, and the middle school. So you'll want to look to see where your voting location is. And again, it's another opportunity. I would say from a voter perspective, town elections have more impact on our life than any other election. Town elections are the most important election for how we live every day. So I want to encourage everyone to come out and vote. So tonight we have, I should say, any comments about the deliberative session? Okay. We have two exciting presentations tonight. The first one is the partnership with the Rotary and the school district. So I want to invite our presenters up for that presentation. Welcome. Yes, that's great.
Thank you so much for having us. I just want to start by saying my son, Nick Tracy Roofing, is available if you guys need him. So. All right. So again, thank you very much for having us. We were supposed to be here probably, I think it was in January. So thank you for reaching out to have us come back because I'm really looking forward to this partnership. My name is Maureen Tracy. I am the current president-elect for the Rotary here in Merrimack.
And I'm Scott Wellman. I'm the past president of the Rotary. Oh. Yeah, my name is Scott Wellman, and I am the most recent past president for the Merrimack Rotary.
And good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Maureen Mooney, for the record, a member of the Merrimack Rotary Club for 18 years and a past president as well.
And we were both born in the same hospital. So you are going to be the first of the rest of the committees here in Merrimack that we are going to be reaching out, but you really are the most pivotal one, and hopefully you will see why. So I'm going to just kind of go through a little bit of what we do. So Good Morning Rotary. We meet every Thursday morning at 7:15 a.m. For a lot of you school personnel, you don't think that is that early, but especially the high school. However, it can be early, but once you get there, you have the best time ever. We have a very diverse membership, and I won't go through this whole list, but we have investment service, travel agency, nursing, electronics, a housing director, driver's education. We just have a very, very diverse amount of people on our Merrimack Rotary Club, in our club, which what we say is we probably wouldn't really cross paths with each other if we weren't involved in this. So it's pretty exciting, I think. And so I'm going to just kind of go through the months, and either one of you can jump in at any time about, and Maureen, you might want to jump in about this one, about the four-way speech contest. And this is one of the reasons why we are coming here to you, because of the four-way speech contest. So it starts in January, typically, and what we do is in the past, we have worked with the high school English department where it's been a course, and the students come up and they kind of compete, and then what we do typically in the past, we've had Hollis Brookline, their Rotary comes over to us, and actually I think this Wednesday night we're going over to Hollis Brookline to vote on their speech contest. And then it can go all the way up to state and regional, and I think maybe even beyond that. So it's around our four-way test, which is, who would like to say it? Go ahead, Maureen.
Is it the truth?
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
And it is beneficial to all
All concerned. So we talk about that every morning that we meet, and that's what the speeches are about, and that's why it's called the four-way speech contest.
So just on the four-way speech contest, it's been on a bit of a hiatus for Merrimack since just before COVID, but we're hoping to certainly revive it and get it back into the curriculum. We give cash prizes to all the entrants, so it's a really fantastic experience for all involved.
And we are trying to increase our amounts that we provide for this as well.
Great. So this past February, we've done a few different things, but And one is an ongoing, which I'm really excited about. But we've been helping Wasserman Park paint. We've done all kinds of various projects there, painting and constructing. One of the newest things that I'm excited about is we're going to be taking over one of the cabins, and it's going to be the Rotary cabin. And I can't wait to go and purchase items for that and make it really special. But again, that's volunteering. We do it typically on the weekends.
And we're also at Wasserman Park funding a new project there for the changing building there it just has 2 bathrooms in there. We're going to add 10 more stalls, changing stalls to that, and some benches for people to wait, and some storage, essentially locker type things for up to 20 people in there. So it's a big project, and we're going to be starting that April 12th.
Thank you. In March is kind of when they start looking at the Merrimack scholarships. So they have a separate Rotary Scholarship Committee, which is made up of Bill Wilkes is our chair. He's one of our Rotarians. And we have Marge Jaffrey, who was the retired school superintendent, and Jen, and I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, Yeomans, who's a retired CPA, Bob Freed, who's a local businessman, Dr. Herod, who is our Merrimack dentist, and Chris Christensen, the Honorable, who is the Rotarian trustee of trust funds. In April, this is my favorite one. This is really exciting. And so I'm kind of really excited that this is coming right now, because April 10th will be the recognition. So I will send the school board a link. So what we do is we recognize people in the town. They either live or work in the town, and we recognize them for their excellence in the workplace. And we typically go with the first, we've got it down to first 14 people that are nominated. So nobody does not get recognized up to the 14. And we've had so many various different people, even including the crew back here. I think every single one of them has been nominated back there. So it's really pretty exciting for a night out to celebrate with local people for the things that they do. And we also have been working with, if there has been a restaurant that's been nominated, we ask if they would be doing if they would do the catering for us the following year. So like last year there was a waitress over at Giorgio's who was recognized. So they catered for us last year. And then this year last year the Lobster Boat was nominated, and so they're going to be catering for us for this year. So it's just a really fun time. In the past 2, we've had Amy Cavino come from WMUR, who makes it sound a little bit more exciting. And we have it now over at the Beer Garden. We used to have it over at the Senior Center, but it is a little bit more exciting at the Beer Garden, I will have to say. And so I'm going to be putting that out there. We already do have nominations. We have a few more that we would absolutely love to get from anybody here or anybody in the audience. We try, to really have other people in the community nominate somebody. We've had bus drivers. We had a teacher from Thornton's Ferry a couple years ago. So it's been we had a music teacher from the high school or the middle school. So we've had a wide variety of people nominated, including school personnel.
Just on the school personnel note, I'll never forget when the food service woman who works at the high school was nominated because she helped us every 4th of July morning for our pancake breakfast. And boy, she was on top of everything. We really couldn't have run that event without her. So she was a recipient of excellence in the workplace, and rightfully so.
May is the top 10 scholars, which that's Maureen's baby. So if you want to talk about that.
Thank you very much. Well, this is an annual tradition for the Merrimack Rotary Club. We honor the top 10 scholars of the upcoming graduating class, and plans are in motion right now for this year's event. In fact, we went for a Friday night, and I think we achieved that goal. So May 30th will be this year's top 10 scholars, and we would invite all of you to attend. Each of the scholars is recognized, and they each get to address the club and those that are in attendance. They're allowed to bring family members as well to let us know what their future plans are, and perhaps maybe even mention a memory or two from their time at Merrimack High School. I want to particularly thank Mr. Olson this year. I know May 30th was a little tight, but we really appreciate the cooperation on behalf of the school district to make this year's event a success. So that'll be on May 30 at 6 p.m. at the O'Leary Center.
And I do want to say, Mr. Olson has attended as well, and like he said, they do all talk about their teachers and how bonded they really are, and Dr. Campbell has come up a lot, which is really nice. In June, this past June especially, I especially interacted with the Interact Club, which was really pretty exciting. So one of our Rotarians, actually he's our current president who wishes he could be here, Wolf Van Chauvin. He is in
He's in Tokyo. Right?
Tokyo, and he really wished he could be here, but he's the one who kind of got this up and running. So we have a recycling event every year that raises money to go back to the community, and we have so many dust bunnies that show up with these old TVs and that come out of people's basements. But it's really great sitting there and hanging out with the Interact Club, especially the ones who really know a lot about technology. They come in and see some of this stuff and they're like, wow. But that's kind of what we're also looking to do at the end. We'll talk about how we would like to work with them a little bit more. But we have that every June right here in this parking lot. And again, we raise money with the recycling that's coming back in, and we're able to put that towards events in the town.
Just want to highlight, Maureen, we wouldn't be able to do that event if it weren't for the student volunteers from Merrimack High School and elsewhere in town. They have so much fun calculating and seeing these items, a lot of them, the big TVs that were at one time furniture pieces, coming in. They even have internal contests with each other as to which carload was the biggest. So anyway, great experience for the student volunteers.
Better them picking up all this stuff and putting it in the truck than me. So
Yeah, that's true.
Appreciate them fully.
Also in June, we have the changing of the gavel. That's when we go, every June, we go from one president to another president, and that would be me this year. So we're pretty excited about that. We have that over at the Homestead, where we recognize actually also too, oftentimes some different community members in that as well. Anybody want to say anything more about that?
No, I
No,
think we're fine.
it's a good time.
Yeah, it is a good time.
July is our pancake breakfast. So we've been doing the Rotary pancake breakfast forever. Since I took my children there before I was even involved in the Rotary when they were young. It is a great time.
And there was a time where when we had more Rotarians, we actually had a
The Midway.
fair, Midway, thank you. There, and we're there all day until the fireworks, through the parade and the fireworks. That's quite an undertaking. We're not able to do that any longer, but it was quite an event in its day, and we've continued that with the pancake breakfast, and we get people, so many. I can't even remember, 600 people, I think, at least this last year, and it's a great event.
And again, great gratitude to the Merrimack School District for allowing us year after year after year to use the facilities and the food service workers. We couldn't do it without them. So thank you very much, Merrimack School District.
Yes, it really is fun. But what I will tell everyone that what I realized putting this PowerPoint together is that, wow, we volunteer on a lot of holidays. So we're all up at 6 a.m. on July 4th going in and making those pancakes and getting them ready. But it's very exciting time, especially when they first start to come in. In August is when we start the promotion for the Turkey Trot, again, another holiday, where the Merrimack Rotarians are up at 6 a.m. to get ready for the Turkey Trot. Has anybody here ever participated in the Turkey Trot? No? Do you know what the Turkey Trot is? Okay. So on Thanksgiving morning is when, actually, Maureen's highly involved in that. Do you want to tell a little bit about it?
Thank you. That's a 5K on Thanksgiving morning, again at a Merrimack School District facility, the middle school. So we couldn't do it without you there. And also we have student volunteers that come and help and facilitate this 5K race. It's becoming very well known. People are really relying on it almost to begin their holiday. And so the publicity for it's getting easier and easier. But we always look for ways to get the word out, and it's a really good time. It's pretty quick. It starts at about 8 o'clock and ends about maybe 10.
And then go home and have your Thanksgiving dinner. September, we actually do this twice a year, but we do the roadside cleanup. So we gather again on an early morning on a Saturday, meet at the middle school, and we are responsible for part of Babusick Lake Road. And our biggest contest there is...
To find out how many nip bottles we can find on the side of
That's
the road.
right.
And there was a huge decrease this last year.
A very huge decrease.
We had over 100
Yes.
the previous year, and it was only like 40 or 50 this year, something like that.
And there was the year of the squirrels. We found a lot of those, if you remember that year. So, this past October, we just had the first new bingo. And that was our very first time trying out this new fundraiser, which is kind of like a wedding without a bride and groom. It's really planned. There's 2 sessions. Everybody is up dancing and singing. We had it over the VFW. The American Legion donated their space for us, and they had said that they held 250 people, which we were aiming for. We had 149, and we couldn't fit one more chair in the room, so we were thanking God that all those people didn't show up. But we did actually even have people coming off the street wanting to come in and participate. So the board has been talking about how we're going to do this again. And one of the ideas that we've had is having a family one, like a Disney one or something like that. And it's just a really great time to bring people together, to raise some money. Honestly, even the bartender there she ended up like going and joining in and giving her own money towards it. And it was just a really, really fun time. They're out of North Reading, Mass, and they've been doing kind of stuff like this for a while. So it's pretty fun. In November, this is the Turkey Trot. As you can see, there's a lot of youth, a lot of them from Merrimack here, and actually a lot of people come from all over.
Yes, very true. And just want to make mention, too, about our Turkey Trot every Thanksgiving morning, is that we are very dependent on our sponsors and our donors. The generosity from this community is just extraordinary, and we keep the names of our donors and our sponsors on the Merrimack5k.com website so that everyone can peruse them all year long and just see how generous this community is to Rotary charitable events.
And this past year, we actually had so many people sponsor that we almost didn't have enough room to put them all on the shirts that of the people to recognize. So we do have an amazing community. In December is Christmas trees, although it does start pretty much the last week of November. But we are out there selling Christmas trees until they're just about gone. A lot of people come back year after year after year for our Christmas trees. All of the money that we raise through that goes right back to the town, and it's pretty exciting. And I believe this was Maureen. Was this you doing a delivery?
But I did just want to, too, on Christmas trees, we do donate Christmas trees, too, to the town welfare department. And that's a big part of our mission as well in the Christmas holiday.
Thank you. So donations, we donate to all kinds of places, but Parks and Rec is a big one. One of the big donations that Merrimack Rotary is known for is Kids Cove, and helping build Kids Cove, if you all know that park over there. But I believe this, you were given, was this for the autism?
No, I think this was for, we added another piece of equipment, actually used the last of our monies that we had set aside for Kids Cove. It's a new digger machine, I can't remember what it was. We put that in, provided the check for that to Matt.
Yep, always doing fun things. Oh, I thought I had more on, but we've done donations to the police department, to food banks, to
We have Coats for Kids that we do every year. We get the people through the welfare department to identify who some people in need, or even the school. Our Wasserman Park, we do camperships and sponsor campers, as well as we did some campership for the Camp Carpenter in Bedford for a Merrimack resident this last year. I think we did that as well. And just so many things that we do. We've fully funded the Watson Park Pavilion. The gazebo in Abbey Griffin Park. We donated $5,000 to that. These are all in the past, and we also funded $20,000 did the entire Reed's Ferry field lighting project. A number of years back as well.
And part of the reason why I do this, because I have my own projects I want to do, so here in Merrimack to make it a better community. So every Thursday morning when we meet, we have a guest speaker. So we actually have a lot of fun on Thursday mornings. We do updates, and then, we start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we actually sing. What's the name?
And then
You're a grand old
Your
flag.
grand old flag. Sometimes you're just so used to it. And then
a four-way test.
our four-way test every morning, and then we have breakfast together, and we do Sergeant at Arms, where we fine each other dollars for happy fines or for being late or something like that, and we take that money and we donate that. And that's one of our guest speakers.
Could I send you a picture from about 30 years ago for that?
We have all kinds of guest speakers. We've had Kelly Ayotte. We've had students from Merrimack. You might know this guy here. The police department has come in, a few times for different things, but this was really good about talking about the dog and about how we could help donate to support that. The library. It's always very informational and exciting, and it gives us. We just had somebody from your budget committee this past week who was a guest speaker, so it's our. So we go through our list of members and we just pick who, it's that person's job to pick who they would want as a guest speaker. And they come in and we get to know a little bit more about the community. All kinds of guest speakers, which makes it really nice. All right. During COVID, we were sitting up at, where was that? The vault, where the vault is, giving out masks to people coming by. And I remember there was a woman who handmade masks and gave them out. And it was just really, really nice. So coming together for that.
That particular photo, those were donations to the Merrimack School District. So that was actually taken in the superintendent's office.
Was it to the school district or from the school district?
Two.
Oh, I thought.
Yeah, that's the entry to the school district, because it's got our little emergency management flyer on the wall there. Yeah.
Very good. Yes, that was taken there. So I remember delivering those to the school district.
I remember
Seems
running
like,
to the school district to get some. I don't know why.
Seems like so long ago
It
looking
does,
at
I
that
know.
photo, but yes.
Yep. Oh no! You know what I ran there for? It was for those goggles for this past
The
year.
eclipse
Yeah.
goggles. Yes,
Yes.
we had a lot of those.
Yes. We also partner with Meals on Wheels, and Zach Payon he's one of our members, and he is he works for Meals on Wheels, and so we attend their event every year. It's called the Festival of Fives. It's actually coming up really soon,
29th.
the 29th, over at the
LaBelle
Thank you.
in Amherst.
Yes, thank you. And it's a really fun night. Just again, trying to show up and support the different initiatives that Merrimack does. Eagle Scout Awards. Look at it.
This is something we've done for many years. It's something We're not going to have it this year. We've taken a different approach with this because our Eagle Scouts, we want to recognize those local scouts, and in this past programs have been honoring Eagle Scouts, but they've come from all over the state rather than really focusing on our Eagle Scouts here. So we're trying to do something that's going to be a little more focused on local kids, local scouting.
And of course, Kids Cove, if you've ever been over there, and that's us cleaning up the roads. And then we do have new member pinnings. When you become a member, you can come and visit. And then if you like us, come on back again. And then we ask you if you would like to join. And if you would, then we do a little ceremony for you and kind of introduce you to the club. But we do have an ask. And then I'll follow up with any questions you guys have. But what we would like, again, since 2020, things have kind of gone down a bit with the connection with the Interact Club and the English department. And so we're looking for maybe having a representative from the school to join us for breakfast so that we can have a direct connection to making sure that we are partnering with the Interact Club, working with the English department for the four-way speech. We have even discussed just this past board meeting of providing a stipend for whoever may work with the Interact Club or anything like that. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with what the Interact Club is. So the Interact Club, which my children were in the Interact Club, and I did not know that they were the high school version of the Rotary. And then there's the Rotaract Club, which is kind of in the colleges, and for younger, under 30 years old. And then, and I believe NCC has a Rotaract Club. And then there's the Rotary. So that's where we're trying to make the connection. So we would love it if we could have somebody who could be our constant. It doesn't have to be every Thursday, but even once a month, so that they can come and join breakfast with us, and we can have a good conduit to being able to make sure things are as vibrant as possible. And to anybody who's watching out in the community or anybody here, we would love any new members who would like to join us. And we really do have fun. And it ends at 8:30 on the dot. That's it, 8:30, because everybody has to get to work and get out and do stuff. So, and that's why it's so early in the morning. So, but any questions?
Just want to add that our website, merrimackrotary.com, one word, merrimackrotary.com, and we do have a very active Facebook page to keep up with what we're doing so that the community is aware. Thank you very much for your attention tonight.
Lori.
So a couple things. I want to say we're grateful for your dedication and commitment to our community. You certainly are making a huge impact on the Merrimack community. So from all of us, thank you very much. A few side notes. I was the president of the Interact Club when I was in high school, so I think that's interesting. And then Mrs. Dickinson did something, I think it was the Watkins speech. So in 8th grade, I did a speech called Number Please, and it was about, an operator with party lines. So from 8th grade, I still remember, number please. I could do part of the speech. So I think that it's so important for the education, and some of those things that you learn in school, you never forget. So thank you for that also.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Well, I am definitely interested in getting that four-way speech back and up and running with our students. We're now out of COVID. We can get past all that. So I definitely look forward working with administration to get that partnership with the English department back and going. I would love to come to your meeting sometime, but three of us on the board, we have to be at school at that time. But I think it's really incredible what you guys do. My husband's been to a number of your breakfasts with Wolf as his guest. And we just really appreciate the commitment and the volunteerism and really just bringing a heart to serving the community through the Rotary Club.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for your time and your presentation tonight.
Thank you.
That leads us to our second presentation, which is an exciting one too. It is the Voice of Democracy Scholarships. So I will invite Julie to come up and share that with us.
Thank you very much for having me tonight. My name is Julie Schneider-Derubis. I'm class of '87 Merrimack High alumni. I've been through the entire school system from grade 1 all the way through graduation. I have 3 nephews that went through the school system and multiple godchildren and pseudo-nieces and nephews that have gone through the school. I'm here today as myself, although I am part of the VFW Auxiliary for the state of New Hampshire. I know that Merrimack has always gotten Voice of Democracy and Patriots Pen essays, but in the past 5 years, it has declined to almost nothing. We have recently, 2 weeks ago tonight, the Voice of Democracy national winner was in Washington, D.C. A gentleman from Manchester Central High School won $35,000 based on his essay. #1 in the country. He can use that whatever he wants. He can pay his school tuition, his books, his room and board, whatever he needs to use, he can use that money for. Well, what are the VOD and Patriots Pen? Well, Patriots Pen is for middle school students, and I did put both of these on all of your stations when I came in. They are both essays. The new themes just came out, so hot off the presses, you could say. The Patriots Pen is, how are you showing patriotism and support for our country? It's a very easy essay for a middle school student to write because it's going to come from their heart. They submit it to the local VFW, which is right down the road, heading towards the Budweiser plant. They have until October 31st to submit the essay. Then the selection process starts. They can win at the post level, then it goes to the district level, then it goes to the state level. The participant that wins at each level does get monetary from the VFW and the VFW Auxiliary. At state level, Trevu got $1,500 from the VFW, and I think it was another $500 or $750 from the Auxiliary. He then went to national. The minimum is $1,000 that you can win at national. That's for Voice of Democracy. Then it's $35,000 for Voice of Democracy, and he came in first place over 53. 53, why do you say 53? Well, we have our Europe location, which is the VFWs in Europe, and then we have the Philippines, and we have the Pacific. So the Patriots Pen, like I said, I'll go back to that. Sorry, I'm all over the place. It is for middle school students, and they can win anywhere, whatever the post decides to give. The state gets $500, and then they can win up to $4,000, I believe, for national. Voice of Democracy is the big one. That's high school, 9 through 10. And like I said, they can win a minimum of $1,000 up to $35,000. Now, I'm going to do a comparison. We have Wilton Lineborough, which is a cooperative. They have submitted every year to their local VFWs, whether it be Milford or Jaffrey. They have hundreds of submissions. Merrimack, we've gotten none in the past 2 years. And I know from people on the VFW side, they have tried to get this into the school just to say, hey, we have these scholarships that you can just write an essay for, and you can win money to go to school with. My goddaughter is in the high school right now. She is a freshman. She knew nothing about it. Nothing was presented by the guidance counselors, the history teachers, the English teachers, nothing. Guidance counselors don't even want to look at it and say, oh, we'll leave it out. Nothing gets submitted, nothing's known to our students.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Does this information go directly to the high schools? Because I actually don't remember seeing it.
See, that's the problem, getting into get the information in the high school. I know that's been difficult to get in. That's why I came here tonight, because my goddaughter is brilliant, and she writes essays all the time. And knowing from her, she had no clue about it. Her parents had no clue about it. Her father is a veteran of the U.S. Naval Institute. And that's concerning because we can't even get this in to be recognized as, hey, this is free. You just write an essay. It's fine.
We have a leadership team meeting coming up this Wednesday. We'll make sure that we present this.
Yeah, because like I said, Wilton Lineborough, a smaller school district than what we have, has hundreds of applicants every year.
So I was going to say probably because, you know, sometimes when you have a change of, you know, maybe your director of guidance, Wilton Lineborough's had the same director of guidance for years and years. And so sometimes like things like that happen, but this is the right place to come. And it's the right way to try to make it, you know, we will fix this because obviously we want all the opportunities for our students.
Right, and that's the important thing. Before Governor Sununu went out of office, I actually had a conversation with him up at Veterans Day up at Boscawen. And he was talking to the director of education about it, not just for Merrimack, but just getting it out there to our schools. And that's why we were jumping for joy watching it live on the VFW page 2 weeks ago. He kept going. I'm like, okay, we're top 15, we're top 10, we're top 5. Oh my gosh! And now he was first place. Now he unfortunately was sick. He got the flu, and he wasn't able to attend, but he was able to give a video acceptance that they were airing. Now they're having a change for this coming year. They used to go all expense paid trip down to DC. You could go visit the memorials and all of the museums and everything. They're changing it up and it's going someplace else. I don't have that information yet. That is coming. Like I said, this just came out. But yeah, I would love to see Merrimack get on the page and have their students be able to participate.
So for the high school, they get to pick their topic?
Nope, the topic is always given every year.
Is it the same for both the middle school and the high school?
It is this year.
Okay.
Typically, it's not the same. Usually they do two different, but this year it is the same for both. The only difference between middle school and high school they write the essay and then they record them reading the essay. And then how is it? How are the winners given? On the national level, there are, I want to say 10 or 15 people all throughout the country that are listening to every single essay, reading the essays, listening to the essays, and they make the decision. And it's not a VFW member, it's not an auxiliary member. These could be doctors, lawyers, history teachers, newspaper reporters. It's a vast variety of people.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you emailed and talked to us about that because this is the team definitely that can be the ones to really bring this initiative back to life here in Merrimack. And we know that essay writing and public speaking are critical skills that students need to learn, and this is a great opportunity for them to get paid for it too, potentially, as if they win. And I think this plus the Rotary Club speech opportunity are great opportunities for our high school students, and then this one for our middle school students as well.
I appreciate your time. Thank you very, very much.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much. So I will say as the chair, I would like to hear an update down the road on the plan for getting this information out to our students. Okay, for those who are following our agenda, we have 2 items that we're bringing together, the New Hampshire School Funding Fairness Project Letter and HB 675. I'm going to first let Bill talk to HB 675, and we'll discuss that, and then we'll discuss this letter.
Well, for our local communities, this is at least for school districts, a concerning piece of legislation. It requires school districts to cap spending according to a specific formula. There is an override provision that would require a 2/3 majority vote. This is somewhat similar to Proposition 2.5 in Massachusetts. This goes back to the early 1980s, revenue limiting legislation. In this case, there are a couple of different approaches here. In the first 2 years of the proposed legislation, budgets would be capped at the previous year's spending level and multiplied by the 5-year average of inflation rate. Now, I haven't seen in the legislation what inflation rate they are talking about. Are they talking about the average U.S. inflation rate, or more of greater relevance, are they talking about the Northeast level of inflation? Because I want to explain to you the difference here. Over the last year, from last week in February of last year to the last week in February this year, the U.S. overall inflation rate was 2.8%. The Northeast inflation rate was 3.9% for that same period. The Northeast core inflation rate, and the core inflation rate removes energy and food prices because those tend to be a little bit more cyclical in nature, can be a little bit more deviant in terms of immediacy of changes in price levels. The core rate of inflation was 4.2% for the Northeast. The Northeast Energy Index was 3.6%. The Northeast Electricity Index, now keep in mind, once again, a 1-year period, 9.7%. So if this piece of legislation is using the average U.S. rate, which let's say is 2.8%, 2.5%, we lose. We lose in the Northeast, and we lose significantly. So I think we need to find that information out. Now, beginning in fiscal 2028, this legislation proposes two options. You can set your budget for the fiscal year at the average budget level for the previous 5 years. Very dangerous. What commodity that we purchase, including labor, including insurance, including insurances, what hasn't increased significantly beyond the rate of inflation? And certainly, if you're dealing with setting a budget based on the average of the 5 prior years, what logic is there to that? There's none. I mean, this is a very concerning piece of legislation. So that's one option, beginning in fiscal 28, according to this legislation. The other is that you set the budget at the previous year's budget, at budget level, multiplied by the average percentage change in enrollment over the previous 5 years. So if your enrollment declines, you lose, and you pick option 1, where you develop the budget based on the previous 5 years' average budget. If enrollment increases, then you're probably going to realize a small increase. And in most communities in New Hampshire, most communities across the country, enrollment is slowly declining. So they're going to lose. Here's a piece of legislation that we've all talked about in terms of who bears the incidence of payment for public education, particularly in this state, and it's the property owner, the local property owner, because the state's fiscal policy adopted by the legislature, proposed by the legislature, has been disastrous in terms of trying to keep up with increasing costs, not only of school budgets, but municipal budgets. And so school districts are going to be tremendously harmed by this particular piece of legislation. Taxpayers would be happy. However, what's going to happen is that happiness will be short duration, because there won't be any educators left in this state with this, because of the continuation of cuts. And people who live near borders are going to go to those other states to work. There's a question, can we afford materials and supplies? Can we even keep up with the rate of increase in health insurance premiums, in utilities? I just mentioned that Northeast indexing of electricity costs in the last year. You've seen that on TV many times in the last couple of months. 9.7%, and not an insignificant component of our budget. So this bears, close watching. A piece of legislation that will have a tremendously detrimental impact to public education and to communities when property values, and I know, look, people are, they're, as we always say, equity rich but cash poor. As long as you've got a quality school system, a quality town, property values are increasing. But with this piece of legislation, I will tell you that property owners, when they cash out at some point in the future, are not going to be as happy as they would be if that local control of the budgets was with the respective communities. So I'll stop there.
So I wanted to bring up a few of my concerns, and then I'll open it up to the rest of the board. One of the things that I love about New Hampshire, and one of the things that, as we moved here from Colorado in 2008, became apparent was how important the community is. Every community is important. And we lived in New Boston for a couple of years before we moved to Merrimack. And that community spirit of coming together and deciding what's best for your community is so important. We have a mechanism for budgets to change. If the town of Merrimack wants to change the budget, it can be done at the deliberative session and it can be done at the ballot box. Last year, the town voted in favor of the default. That, to me, is the heart and soul of Live Free or Die. Local communities deciding what local communities are going to do. Of course, our state legislature is important, and there's a number of things that are their lane. But I feel like the school board budget, and even though it's not in this legislation, the town budget is up to the local voters. There is an RSA that allows voters to put a petitioned warrant article to put a tax cap in their local community. So my first concern is that I feel like this piece of legislation is really stepping into a very strong characteristic of New Hampshire, and that is local rule for local issues. Fiscally, as I talked about a number of weeks ago with the Budget Committee, our health insurance alone has skyrocketed. Cumulatively since 2013, 74% increase, when inflation only increased by a cumulative 35%. That's double. And we have no control over that. We have limited options as an employer to provide for healthcare, and the mechanism to change healthcare is tedious and requires money in our district. So it is an onerous expense that we have no control over increases. Secondly, enrollment. I heard this a lot during our budget discussions, that we have 200 or 300 fewer students. That's not enough to close a building. And when you divide 300 students across 6 buildings and 13 grades, you're only talking a couple students. That does not change how many teachers we need, how many buildings we need, how much electricity, gas, oil we need. It does not change our capital outlay to provide a free and appropriate public education. So multiplying our budget by a change in enrollment would have a significant impact on the budget when that decrease in enrollment doesn't have a significant impact on what we have to provide. Secondly, the other option of the 5 budgets, what happens across 5 years? We have multiple contracts that come up for voting. So when you're averaging the budget, you're talking, well, wait a minute, that was the MTA contract, and since then we fixed the grid and we fixed the contract. But we're going to average in those lower pay salaries as part of our budget. So that 5-year time frame for averaging is encompassing a lot of our collective bargaining agreements at lower rates. It's also taking into account that things change when you do curriculum changes and things like that. So I have that concern as well. The bottom line that I have with this piece of legislation is that our town came out for the deliberative session We have members of this community very vocal on every perspective on the budget. And I think it should remain that way rather than a piece of legislation at the state level deciding for all voters what it can be. Naomi.
Basically everything you just said, but my main concern is local control. This is like the exact opposite of local control, and I think what you will see happen with a piece of legislation like this is a cookie cutter budget. Districts will be like, we're gonna be, because especially if we're beholden to that average of 5 years, like they're going to try to maximize everything. They're not going to look at where can we get savings. They're going to be trying to protect their funding for future years. And so not only are you taking local control away from the voters, you're taking local control away from school boards and administrations to make the best decisions for the school based on the situation at hand. Like, what is our unique situation? How are we going to meet those challenges? It's going to be, it makes it a formula. And I don't like that.
Yeah. And they're ignoring, people don't want this.
Yes.
It's been voted down time and time again in communities. Every time one of these tax caps is proposed, it fails. And so now they're just stepping in and doing it themselves. So, I mean, people don't want this, or at least the majority of people don't want this. And it's just, to me, it just speaks to this attitude of how, there's a small group of people out there who think that schools are just flushing money down the toilet, and I don't care how we cut it or what we cut, we're going to cut your budget. And giving no thought, as Bill talked, where's the logic in this? There is not. The logic is we just want you to have less money to go towards your public education. And it's disgusting. I'm shocked when I saw it. I shouldn't say I was shocked. I wasn't shocked. But it's a widely unpopular decision. And the fact that they just went ahead and approved it, to me, it's very tone deaf. So it's sad.
You brought that up about the tax caps. That tax cap law actually changed this year. So we're only seeing the first round of communities being able to adopt those tax caps. So again, they didn't even give that legislation a chance to let's see how this works. Maybe we need to refine this. Let's see what the community response to it is. It's like, it feels very rushed. It feels very, it feels like they're not actually paying attention to the realities on the ground.
Everything that everyone just said, I just wanted to say that, we saw these presentations tonight, from Rotary. Our public schools, 85% of our populations go to public schools, and they are the heart of the communities. They're the kids that are doing the community service. They're the ones that are going out and representing our high schools. They're doing very well. And I was telling Lori Peters, when I went to LA last week, I was at the animation studio, and so I just did a little survey. So these people are, top of Disney employees, and I'm like, where did you go to high school? Did you go to a public high school? Did you go to a private high school? And I'm going to say 97% went to a public school. And when I asked them about their colleges, they went all over the place, but some of them were small private colleges, and some of them were major universities. But that was just a poll I took. And New Hampshire, when we look at public schools, we're fourth in the nation. We're giving results. We're passionate about our schools, and we don't want people dismantling them. And we got to get it, people have to become more aware, and then they have to voice their opinions at the ballot box. That's it.
I want to add on to what you said about us being fourth in the nation. It was mentioned, I believe, at a budget committee meeting, Naomi, correct me if I was wrong, that we pay 40% more in New England for education per pupil costs than the rest of the nation. But New Hampshire is in the top 10% of schools in the nation. And we, as a community in Merrimack, pay below the state average per pupil amount. So I believe you said it. we pay below average prices and get above average results.
We have a different audience tonight, so I'm going to say it again. So I went actually and I looked in the history of the past 3 to 4 years, and all of those years, Merrimack has spent below average per pupil for the state. And in the last 3 years, this board and this administration has made specific changes to curriculum. So far, we've done language arts reading, and we've done science. And if you look at the test scores from this is all state data. It's all available on the New Hampshire Department of Education website. In those areas where we have addressed it, our scores started out hugging the state average, and over each of those years they've creeped up, and the state average has stayed flat. So not only are we paying slightly below average per pupil, our results are improving. The science difference was the most stark. I wish I had my numbers in front of me. I don't. But it was a really big upswing. The reading was a little more subtle, but we expect it to keep going. And one of the great things that we're doing is making data-driven decisions with this administration and this board. And we're going to keep evaluating those scores, and we're going to keep evaluating everything. And if we need to make changes, we will. So yes, we're getting above average results for slightly below average cost, and legislation like this, to bring it full circle, will hamper our ability to do that.
Any other comments on HB 675 before we pivot? So the other side of school funding is the state. And as you saw, we received this letter too late for us to comment or vote or sign it before it was presented. But I think it is important to mention, so I am going to read it. To Governor Ayotte and the General Court of New Hampshire, 2 years ago, a group of over 150 local leaders, including mayors, city councilors, select board members, and school board members, presented a similar letter to this one during public hearings on the state budget, calling on the state of New Hampshire to increase its funding for public education in order to address well-known inequities and gaps. What that budget contained, touted as one of the biggest increases to state education aid since the Claremont decisions, was only $169 million, barely more than a 2% increase that did not meaningfully affect the state's share of education funding, which remains the lowest in the entire country. This modest change has not helped reduce the downshifted tax burden faced by local property taxpayers trying to support their public schools. During the legislature's work in 2024, there were several bills aimed at reducing that burden and sending aid to districts and students that needed it the most. Like students receiving special education services, despite strong bipartisan support in the House, these bills were killed by the Senate and failed to become law. Meanwhile, all of us at the local level have continued to work hard for our schools and communities to try and balance the needs of our students and the economic realities faced by our taxpayers. Inflation, energy costs, and unpredictable special education expenditures have put strains on our budgets, and the state has not provided any relief. The significant cap between the actual expenses, which was $21,545 per pupil during the 23-24 school year, and average state aid, which was only $5,148 per pupil the same year, must be closed with local property tax. Our local property taxes cover 70% of all school revenues in the state, the highest share in the country. In all of our communities, especially those with lower property values, this means levying higher and higher tax rates just to keep up. The result is a system where one of the biggest factors in determining the opportunities available to our students and the burden placed on the taxpayer is local property values. Despite record surpluses in the Education Trust Fund, excess state funds have not been used to help alleviate these disparities or provide aid to school districts. In November 2024, the Department of Education announced that there was expected to be a $16 million less in the state's special education aid fund than was being requested by local districts. This fund is used to reimburse school districts for specific state-approved services provided to students with complex and intensive needs. Let me just stop right there. That is not for all special education students. It's considered catastrophic aid. These students have a federally protected right to these services, and if the state does not fill in the funding shortfall, it will downshift even more onto local property taxpayers. As the legislature begins working on the biennial state budget, the single largest vehicle for school funding reform, you must take stock at the current situation communities are facing. For decades, the state has fallen short of its constitutional responsibility to fund education, losing again and again in court while downshifting increases onto local property taxes in most communities around the state. With pending decisions in the 2 current school funding lawsuits coming any day from the New Hampshire Supreme Court, we once again call on the governor and the New Hampshire legislature to act. There are a variety of policy changes that could provide significant relief to local property taxpayers while boosting the funding going to school districts around the state. The 2020 Commission to Study School Funding's final report, having now gone 4 years without the legislature putting its findings and policy proposals into action, still presents a strong framework to build from. The work of last year's Special House Subcommittee on Education Funding also did extensive work on the bipartisan proposals that were ultimately killed in the Senate. It is the firm belief of those signed below that well-funded, excellent public education is the most important asset for the future of New Hampshire. About 85% of New Hampshire children attend public schools, meaning an increase in state aid would help most children in the state access new opportunities while also providing property tax relief for most taxpayers. This is a win-win and promotes the health of the New Hampshire economy by investing in the next generation and making our communities more attractive for business and families. We all work hard to balance providing critical services to our communities while not increasing property taxes beyond what people can afford. The current budget process presents a new opportunity for the governor and the legislature to work together on finding a solution to the funding challenges faced by so many communities in our state. A school funding solution ensures every student, no matter where they live, has access to the best possible public education while also creating real relief for taxpayers. Doing nothing while not only violating the New Hampshire Constitution will only serve to exacerbate the existing disparities that exist in our state, driving local property taxes higher and keeping opportunities away from our students. The future of our state and our communities depends on the state contributing to a well-funded public education system. So I've made it clear since I first ran for budget committee and the school board that I did send my kids to private school here in New Hampshire for a time. They also attended New Boston and Goffstown public schools, and my oldest son did attend Merrimack High School for a short time. I do believe families need to make the best decision for their kids, and 85% of the families in the state have decided the public school is the best option for their kids. And I believe that public schools should be as competitive as any other school available to families. We can't do that with our current funding situation. And having studied the other states that do not have property tax, they do have ways to fund education in other forms besides income tax. And so it's my personal opinion that our state legislature needs to work on some creative funding solutions that don't include an income tax, so we keep our freedom here from income tax, and yet increases what we're paying per pupil from the state level. It's no lie, we're 50th in the nation. I think we can do better. I do think if the board so desires, we can choose to add our name as either individuals or as a board to this letter. But I'm bringing it to you even though the time passed for the initial presentation.
I thought at one point in time we were going to write our own letter, so I think, because the time has passed, I think it would be a good time to they make some very strong points, but we write our own letter from the Merrimack School Board, and we send it to, obviously, our governor, Ayotte, but, to our state reps and to our state senator, and, just explain, we're afraid right now. We're afraid that we're not going to be able to continue to offer the services if we have these situations where we have a spending cap.
One thing I think about this is that this should be a bipartisan issue or a nonpartisan issue. It's like educating our children. Everyone wants to educate our children well. We all need to be working together on solutions, and arguing about things on party lines is not going to provide those solutions. And I would urge our local representatives to find a way to compromise and work together on solutions that will serve Merrimack families and Merrimack children and Merrimack taxpayers. This is not a zero-sum game. This is not somebody wins and somebody loses. We need to come up with solutions that work for everybody.
And I would be in favor of writing a letter along these lines because, as Lori said, they just bring up so many good points. And again, the state of New Hampshire continues to lose case after case when it comes to school funding. There's been so many examples of, they're just not holding up their end of the bargain. So it's frustrating.
So I will say that, I believe it was former state representative Miss Melissa Blasek who said there's not a magic pot of money where, money can come from. And I agree with that statement. We have to be sensitive to taxpayers across the state. But we have the lowest business tax rate, enterprise tax rate in New England.
I think we have the lowest tax burden in the country.
We do. But thinking it in terms of the bigger picture, the big companies that make New Hampshire their home. If we reversed the cuts to just the enterprise tax that Bill was talking about a number of weeks ago, we'd still be lower than every state in the nation and lower than every New England state. There are ways to spread the pain out across more people that feel less impact than property taxpayers paying the local taxes at the burden that they are. And one of the things that I looked over, listening to the people speak at the deliberative session, we've had 3 assessments in the last 15 years in town. That means everybody's house was reassessed, which means everybody's house went up in value. In Merrimack, nothing went down. That had nothing to do with our budget. That had nothing to do with what was voted on at the ballot box. That was a tax assessor reassessment across the town, and it's going to happen again. And you all know what houses are selling for. I am anticipating those assessments will increase. And so when we have that reality coupled with inflation, the parts of our budget that exceed inflation, the need for recovering from COVID, which is affecting anyone who was, in kindergarten, first grade at that time and up, until they've graduated from high school, that impact is going to continue to be felt. The fact that education is so different now than it used to be, and educators are leaving in droves because of it. Cutting budgets, cutting salaries, increasing class sizes, those are just recipes for disaster. And so we've got to figure out a different way to do this besides cutting budgets drastically and putting the burden on local taxpayers.
Because we want to keep our place in the top 10% of public educations in the country.
That's right.
I don't want to see that go down.
Well, I will resurrect out of my documents folder the letter that I wrote, and we will put it on the next agenda. Okay. We will review the Regional Career and Technical Education Agreement with Nashua.
Yes, this is the annual agreement that we enter into with the Nashua School District. First thing I want to say is I don't want you to think we've been holding this for 2 months. We were originally scheduled to have a meeting on the 24th of January. That was canceled. We just had a meeting about 2 to 2.5 weeks ago. So nothing has changed. You know how critical and how important CTE programs are for our students, and so I'm asking for your approval and have you sign it.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Motion made by Ken, seconded by Naomi. Any discussion?
I just want to say that when I read this, it talks about the sending school district and the receiving school district having a joint meeting. And I just know from when I was in the Nashua School District, sometimes the sending school district has a more difficult time getting into some of those spots. So I really think it's really important that we know, especially I think it's nursing. There's a few programs that's really hard to get into, but I would like to see Merrimack guaranteed a few, like you're going to get these spots if you have students for them.
Yeah, cosmetology, automotive, electrical, always very, very popular, and we'll put our oar in the water.
There you go.
Naomi.
I feel like I'm talking for Jenna because she's not here. She's always the one who reminds families that these programs are available.
Yeah.
Can you, what grade level do they start in?
Well, these are basically for high school students.
So it could start as
Primarily-
freshmen or
No,
sophomores? That's what I was
Yes,
getting at.
From sophomore upward, that's
So
correct.
I was wondering, like, when should parents be looking out for this? When should they be thinking about applying? That kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the school council.
Now it's all in the program of studies, but thank you.
But if parents or students are interested, they could stop by the school counseling office. There was a notice that went home. I know that they had an initial sign up, and so they're actively working to make sure, as Lori alluded to, that if there are spots that our students would be interested in. But if a student is interested, stop by. Not all programs start as sophomores. Some start as juniors. So it really does depend on what students are interested in.
Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the agreement, say aye. Aye, 400. Review of March 11th PD Day.
Right. So last Tuesday, we had a great PD day. I came in that day and I remember saying to Matt, I feel a little bit like an event planner on these days because you go from building to building and make sure, and my administrative assistant, Shay, is just amazing. We were able to really provide, I think, differentiated, targeted, really relevant training, which, as you know, those of you that have been in the teaching profession, that's a real challenge because each group has different needs. And so I would say probably our biggest training was our third Wit and Wisdom implementation training for this school year, where we had some facilitators on site and they really focused on writing in the program. We had an open SciEd implementation training with, again, an on-site trainer, and that individual came to work with our teachers in grades 6 through 8. You may remember that we have worked to implement a progress monitoring tool this year called AimsWeb Plus. And so we've had a couple of trainings there about how to get onboarded with AimsWeb. And so this past Tuesday, we did a progress monitoring essentials and then a really targeted Q&A session for our special ed teachers and our interventionists. We had NAMI suicide prevention training for our school counselors and some of our wellness staff. In that instance, we provided actually a 3-day training to ensure that we can have some of our own school district trainers, which we think in the long run will really be beneficial to our community. We had a Northeast Passage presentation. If you know anything about Northeast Passage, they're based out of UNH, and they really try to provide movement and engagement with students of all, individuals of all abilities. So they were on site in both the high school cafeteria and the gym. We had an encore presentation by request from the Executive Functioning Workshop presenter, Sarah Ward, that we had for parents. There were teachers that were interested in learning more, so we brought Sarah in and she met with our special education teachers and paraprofessionals, and hoping soon, probably next year, to offer that to teachers. Department work with NHLI. As you know, we've had a couple of years where we're working on competencies and common assessments and calibration of those assessments, so our middle and high school teachers we're working with folks from there. I'm going to get the name wrong. Ken, you're going to have to...
Feierabend.
Yeah, and I will say it was a K-12 training, and I know I had talked to Ken about is it really appropriate for the middle and high school teachers, and I'll just say I heard from our high school teachers, they loved it. And so
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I went for a little while and I skipped and galloped and did what was, I mean, I can't play anything, but I had a really good time, and the facilitator was great. We narrowed down some health curriculums that we're looking to purchase for next year. And so our K-6 PE and health teachers met to review those and to select one. And then those of you that know about CPI training or crisis prevention intervention, we're required to provide ongoing certification and refresher sessions to the staff that's supporting students with complex needs. And then that last was just really, we have teachers that really want to have both vertical and horizontal PLT conversations. So if you think about our art teachers, they met to talk about the art shows that are coming up. You may have other groups, say our gifted and talented teachers, ESOL teachers, they were able to get together to really look at, how the school year is going, plan for those end of the year pieces, but also to receive important professional development. We always do a feedback survey, and we will carefully review the comments and help us for future planning. And I just want to thank you and also the community for their support of this work. I know that it can be tricky to have a day off, during the school week, and so I'm just appreciative of the time.
So I just want to say one of the things that I have really appreciated since you have come on board is the PD that you plan. It is not just data driven, but it is interest driven. And I think all of us who've been in school have been to PDs where we're like, this could have been an email. Can I get out of here? We're multitasking because, we've done bloodborne training 42 times. And the thing that I have seen is that you are giving what the teachers are asking for. And so they are interested, they're engaged, they're expanding their knowledge and skills, and we're getting needs covered. And it's such an opposite of what I have heard. And I've had a number of teachers just say they've been in the district or other districts where they didn't get a choice or they didn't get a say or input in what professional development they had, and here they do. So I want to thank you for that. Okay, date for our goal setting meeting. I know it's weird to talk about June when it's March and rainy outside, but it is that time to set a date. And I believe, Bill, you have already talked to our previous facilitator.
Yes, unfortunately, Dr. Dioria is not going to be available this year. So I've asked him to think about someone who might be able to recommend to us, who is as engaging and informative as he is. And we just found that out late last week. So I'll let you know what he has to say.
Naomi.
How set in stone is this date going to be? Because we're going to have one different member a month from now.
Agreed. There are some pretty hard rocks on the schedule right now for a couple of us. So, there is some wiggle room, but it would be pushing things into July or August. So if we could we've kind of have a tradition to have it on that Thursday as soon as school gets out. I think we could tentatively talk about that, and then if we need to change, we can talk about a change. But I think keeping it in June is our best bet to not run into everybody's vacations for the summer.
So it'd be June 19th?
That's the one I'm throwing out as a possibility.
Do we know when the last day of school is going to be?
You beat me to the punch on that one.
Because I'm looking at my calendar and I'm like...
What I was going to say during this conversation is we're still working on that. The requirement is 180 days. We've had 2 no school days, but we also have the alternative of hours of instruction, which we've used the last several years. And so I will know as we go about the next 2 weeks, once we get out of kind of the peak snow season, I'll be able to come back with a little bit more definitive date for the last day of school. Should be right around that 18th or 19th, though, using the hours.
So again, this is all tentative conversation, but
So I definitely know I couldn't do the 20th. So if it was...
I can't either.
Yes, I have a wedding for one of my nephews on the 21st and I have to fly out. But I could do the 19th.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat. If we don't do it on the 19th, then I'm like booked out until mid-July.
You can't do the next week at all?
Nope.
Okay. So Ken, I guess,
I
we don't have to worry about you.
abstain.
You're abstaining from this
I was
conversation.
just kidding.
I think you should do it.
Come on,
I don't know. Do it. Yeah.
I don't have any obstacles on my calendar at this point.
Okay. Well, then we will hold on that, but we're just,
Yes.
putting it out there as potential. Another thing, and I think I'm running off two different agendas that I wanted to talk about, is 4th of July float season. If we are up for doing that this year.
I think we should. I think it's good for the community to see that we're passionate and we're focused and all the good things. I want to say I do appreciate the high school. The first team always does a wonderful job. I hope maybe we could get the hockey team as state champ runners up to come out and do a float. The more floats that we do, it's really good for the younger kids to see all of our high school kids and all the great things they're doing.
Yep. And we passed out so much candy last year. We passed out a lot of candy. I'm up for it as well. The whole Peters family would be happy to help out as well. So
I abstain.
you're abstaining again. We might recruit you.
I was actually
You
just
can still come back as
Okay, yeah,
a school
I'm
board
down.
supporter.
I was actually just about to say, like, some years we've had tons of people, and some years it's been like 3 kids up on the thing with the desks, and I was hoping to maybe somehow branch out a little bit or think of ways to involve more people just because it's fun.
Well, depending on how the April election turns out, we'll be inviting the budget committee. And I know there's a couple on there who have kids, so maybe their kids would be interested in coming as well.
In the budget committee, some years, of course, we did the T-shirts blue, red, and we gave them red, and we were blue.
Yep. And planning and building
planning and building white. So
Yeah.
we did red, white, and blue. So we'll be sure to have a lot of red T-shirts available.
Yep, absolutely. So, well, then I will go ahead and fill out the form for Parks and Rec, because that's what brought this up. They sent me the email to sign up. So I will fill that out. Voter information guide. That's, you're on, Matt.
Yeah, thank you. You have before you a draft version of the voter information guide that we've been doing for quite a few years now. And I'd like you to take a look at it and review it. When I write these things up, I try and take all the emotion out of it, everything like that, just present the facts. And I'd like your input if you would like to change anything. I have had put some commentary on the petition warrant articles that are there. I don't know if you care for that or you don't care for that. So if you could take a couple of days and by the end of this week, get back to me with any changes, maybe run them through Laurie, the chair, so I could make those changes so we can get this off to the printer and get it online. I'd appreciate that.
Go ahead.
I thank Matt for just another excellent job. He's as thorough as any business person in this country.
I will say that I was speaking today with a teacher at the school that I work at that lives in another town, and she said that she had heard good things about Merrimack and that we are very careful in case of emergencies. And she was in a town that had a major budget shortfall and was explaining to me how that impacted their community, and she'd heard that Merrimack doesn't have those things happen. So thank you, Matt.
We haven't yet, no. Thank you.
Any other new business? Then we will move on to the approval of a policy and the procedure that goes along with that policy. So do I have a motion to approve the revised non-discrimination, equal opportunity employment, and anti-discrimination plan AC?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor? 400. Do I have a motion to approve the revised procedural safeguards non-discrimination on the basis of disability policy, ACE?
So moved.
Moved by Ken,
I second.
second by Lori. Any questions or discussion on those policies?
No.
All those in favor? 400. Then we have our first review of the Food and Nutrition Services Anti-Discrimination and Civil Rights Complaints, ACR. Do I have a motion to waive the first reading?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to waive the first reading.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Ken, second by Naomi. Any questions or discussion before we vote?
I'm just wondering why all the edits are blue. It kind of threw me off.
It's a good question. So in your packet, Sandy wrote a little note about that.
Oh,
So the blue text is kind of like a last minute. So the USDA withdrew and updated some of the non-discrimination notice. So typically she puts red if it's from the New Hampshire School Boards Association, but this is coming from a different oversight group, so that's why she made it blue.
Makes sense.
All right, all those in favor of waiving the first reading, say aye.
Aye.
400. Approval of the February 17th public and non-public minutes.
I make a motion to accept the public and non-public minutes from February 17th.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Ken, second by Naomi. Any questions, comments, or edits? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
400. February 20th, non-public minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll just keep it rolling here. Make a motion to accept the minutes from the February 20th non-public meeting.
I second.
Seconded by Lori. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
400. Consent agenda.
In your packet tonight is both one resignation and a retirement. So we'll first ask you to accept the resignation of Harley Hall, the Director of Graduation Pathways at Merrimack High School. Harley is moving on to become an assistant principal at Wyndham High School, and we wish him well. And also in your packet is with mixed review, if you can take a look at his formal announcement of retirement from his position of assistant principal at Merrimack High School from Richard Zampieri. Rich has been the assistant principal in Merrimack for 24 years, and those that work with him affectionately call him Z. He is just a terrific human being and has been at Merrimack for a long time. And when he talks about retiring right now, he really chokes up about it. So I know that many folks may want to reach out to him and congratulate him and wish him well. And he knew we were going to be talking about him tonight. So I just want to personally thank Rich. He's been wonderful to me as a new member of the team. He is the resident historian. Anytime I want to know why something is done the way it is, I'll say, Rich, I need a little history lesson. He usually has not only a story, but a file folder full of information. So we wish Rich all the best.
Do I have a motion?
I regrettably make the motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a regretful second?
Yes, because they're both amazing and we're sorry to lose them.
Yes, we are. We are. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Regretfully 400. Committee reports.
I went to a Parks and Rec meeting on February 19th, and it was so long ago that I completely forgot to go look up my notes, so I will have to give you an update of what they talked about at a later date.
We had a professional development meeting scheduled last week, but not enough folks were able to attend, myself included, to have a quorum. So there was some discussion about some approval of professional development via email that I think got approved. And then we have a curriculum meeting tomorrow. So I will have more information on that on April 7th.
Any other committees? All right, correspondence. I'll let you all start and then I'll finish.
It's been pretty quiet. A couple emails about the deliberative session, and yeah, pretty much it.
Same thing. I had a couple people reach out about deliberative session.
So I had both some staff and student concerns that I forwarded to administration. I will say to the public, we've had a number of right-to-know requests in the last couple of weeks, and I want to give kudos to our administration. They are pretty massive requests, and they have been working hard to not just uphold the law, but be thorough and transparent in those right-to-knows. And then I, too, had a number of deliberative session and voting questions and budget questions. Comments from the board? Lori.
So at the next meeting, I would like to update everyone. I did have a Zoom meeting with Fidelity about asking them for funding for help with our SAU. It was a great meeting. I don't think we're going to be eligible under their rules, but they were very wonderful. But I will update everyone. And then finally, I did have the opportunity to go to a few sporting events, but the hockey game, I just want to say that I sat in the stands and I watched Merrimack kids. There had to be 100 students there, if not more, and they were so well behaved. And I went over after and I thanked the athletic director. And I said, I'm so proud of Merrimack High School and the students and their leadership and how they presented themselves. So I just wanted to, thank our, athletic department, our coaches, but also our student body.
Ken.
I feel it is important to mention that March is National Music in Our Schools Month. Across the country, school districts are celebrating music education, and we all talk about it all the time, how fantastic our music program is here at Merrimack. And I think it's also important to take a moment to recognize our elementary music teachers who often do not get the spotlight that our high school music teachers do. It all starts with them. And the folks over at the kids at the high school would not sound and perform the way they do if it wasn't for them, as well as our middle school teachers as well. So we celebrate our fellow music educators in Merrimack this month.
And I just want to say, students who play an instrument or sing are excellent students. The brain science of music is incredible, and it's such a sad thing to see when districts have to cut that, and we have not seen that in New Hampshire and not in Merrimack, but I've seen it in other states where those are the programs that get cut: art, fine arts, music, for budget reasons. And it is such an important aspect of learning. And it's one of the things that's the last thing to go. I just personally, my mother has Alzheimer's and she is now in memory care, but she can still get out her piano music and sit down at the piano and still play, because music is one of the last things to go in her memory. So it's so very important. I just want to once again state how thrilled I am that we had so much participation at the deliberative session. I hope that we have record number of people coming out again April 8th. It's so very important. We've already seen a number of towns in the state where voter turnout was a major factor in the results of those elections. So I want to keep that on everyone's radar. We'll have another board meeting the night before election, but it's a very important night. Any other comments from the board? Lastly, I will open up the microphone once again for public comments on agenda items only. This is a second time in our meeting where people can come and speak at the back microphone, and you can state your name and address. And if you're a student, you never have to state your address. So I'll open up the floor.
Good evening, Madam Chair, once again, and members of the school board. For the record, my name is Maureen Mooney, a resident of Merrimack on Handsome Drive, also a state representative, also a member of the Rotary Club. First of all, I want to thank you for all that you do. I have a couple of thoughts with regards to some of the things you've mentioned throughout the evening on the agenda. First up, I just want to mention that I was present and in the audience for the Granite State Challenge big win Merrimack had over Winnisquam. It was very difficult for me to keep it quiet that they won, considering that taping was in January, but I did. And now that it's published and the show is online, I'm just so excited for them and that everybody can share in what I witnessed while being there live in January in Durham for their win. Just a little update from Concord with regards to a few things you've said. We are right now in Concord in the very thick of state budget season. The governor has given us her version of the budget, us meaning members of the New Hampshire House. That was delivered in mid-February. Bottom line, her budget proposal, which is essentially where the process starts, is $1 billion more than the budget that was adopted and signed last term. The House now is working on it. We have until about April 10th to get it out of the House, and then the whole process starts all over again in the Senate. This is a very challenging budget season. There are many reasons for this. Some say in Concord it's the most challenging they've ever seen. There's no ARPA money. That's all gone. Lawsuits are pending against the state in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Lawsuits regarding specifically decades of abuse that took place, very sadly, very tragically, at the Youth Detention Center. We're also awaiting the appeals decisions of the education funding suits. So we have challenges and circumstances that we haven't faced before. We're working through them. The way we work on the budget is that we rely, and it's in our rules, we again meaning the House members, we have to work off of the revenue estimates that the House Ways and Means makes. Those revenue estimates down significantly from the budget we've had in the past. So just painting the picture. I don't want to be doom and gloom. We're getting through all of this, but I just want to bring to you live what's going on in Concord and the challenges that we're facing with this budget. House Bill 675. Thank you very much for the input on all of that. It was very helpful. It's not over yet. There's actually a work session scheduled tomorrow in the House Finance Committee in Division 2. That's going to be broadcast, as they all are, live on YouTube. Or if you'd like to attend or email or contact members of that committee, they would be more than welcome. But it's not over yet. That bill has changed and been amended several times up until this point. Anything could happen before it gets out of the House, or if it does get out of the House and Senate this time around. But just to let you know that that is in full swing as well. So those are my comments for this evening. Again, thank you for all you do. We're all very busy, I know, and it's great to see such spirit of community service as well as support for our Merrimack students. Thank you very much.
Before I entertain a motion to adjourn, I just want to say thank you. We appreciate the Concord updates very much. We track a lot of things, but to hear it from our state representatives is very important. We appreciate it, Maureen. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that one too. I make a motion to adjourn.
Moved by Ken, seconded by Naomi. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
400. Thank you and good night.